Welcome to the Out of Spec Podcast. It is International Podcast Day, in case anyone's listening on the day we release this, Thursday, September 30th. So happy International Podcast Day, which I just found out was a thing. But welcome to the Out of Spec Podcast, where we talk about lots of cars, all things cars. And today I'm joined by Mike Breeling and Ben Spreen, and we will have special guest Logan Rodrian asking some questions about one of our topics, which will be Taycan related. We're going to talk about Taycan Cross Turismo, some Miata leaf peeping I've been doing, Genesis GV60 breaking news, unveiled specs, the Jeep Grand Cherokee 4XE is finally announced, and some Rivian R1T first drives. But first, a quick word from our sponsor, which I will be giving the word. EV Wash is our sponsor, and they actually make cool products basically to wash your EV. You can actually wash a gas car as well, but they are pretty environmentally focused and environmentally centered. And the big thing that separates them from a lot of the others are their actual aluminum bottles, which are reusable. And then when you need a refill, you just order the refill, which comes in a paper kind of biodegradable pouch, which saves money, saves the planet, saves trees, which, by the way, they plant a tree for every product purchased. So support the sponsors who support us. And go, when you check out with your EV wash kit, you can use code Out of Spec with capital O, capital S, 30 for 30% off your EV wash kit. So thank you, EV Wash. Let's get started with the elephant in the room, which is Porsche Taycan. I think Logan is here with me, so I'm going to bring him in. Logan, welcome. Can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Awesome. So I've got Ben Spreen here and Mike Breeling, and we are excited to talk about Porsche Taycan because, well, I just got one as a press car. So my first time driving actually any Porsche for a long period of time, but first time with the Taycan. Ben, you've probably been around Taycans a lot. And Ben just ordered one, right?
Yep. I just put my deposit down yesterday for a rear-wheel drive model, and it's actually, I have to make sure I'm very happy with the spec because it locks in and goes into production basically in like 3 or 4 days. So,
oh geez,
excited. Get it this year though, which is nice. By December, I'm told December 17th.
Okay, yeah. So Logan, when did you lock or order yours? It's not locked in yet, right?
No, it's not locked until next Tuesday.
Nice. So you have time.
Cool.
Wait. Is it the same day mine locks?
Probably, yeah. Actually, yeah.
The 4th? What's the 4th? Hey, mine's Monday, I guess.
Nice. So yeah, I've got some visuals to look at for yours. Some renderings, I think. Let me see if I can share these. And so you said rear wheel drive. So that's like pretty, so it's not Cross Turismo. This is like a fun, it appears to me as like a fun drift spec version of a Taycan.
Kind of. I mean, I have a Model 3 Performance now, and the only reason I upgraded to that over my Model 3 long range, I mean, the acceleration was nice, but that wasn't the main thing. It was because of track mode and being able to slide it around and be irresponsible. But the actual raw performance, I don't necessarily use every day. And so I was like, man, I just kind of want to have something that's fun to drive still, that I can slide around that's electric. And well, there's kind of only really one game in town there right now, which is Taycan, rear wheel drive for that.
So yeah, it's an interesting process to order, I guess. I don't know if you want to talk about what that process was, and Logan can let us know if his was any different, but probably similar.
Yeah. Feel free to just chime in as I'm going through it. But I think the Porsche order process is really cool, especially if you've come from, say, Tesla, where you submit an order and then you just kind of wait and hope, and there's not a whole much information when ETA is concerned. You just kind of get it when you get it. But with Porsche, once you've got the allocation for your order and you put it in, you log in and you can see how many days are left until each step and what each step is, and they explain what the car is going through as it goes to the factory and the processes and shipping. Right now, they only do this for Taycan 911 and Boxster came in 718. So think it's rolling out to more cars, but they call it Track Your Dream. It's really cool because it even tells me how many miles away the car is. It's currently 4,343 miles away, which is useless information, but I really like knowing it. So it's kind of cool, and you get to, see all your information in there as you adjust it and order your car, which is nice. But it'll be a 22. I think it's going to be one of the not the earlier 22s, but kind of early-ish for a 22, which is nice. And for me, that matters a lot because it's the first year they offer Android Auto in Porsche, and I need that because if
Even
I'm
though
getting
it's
up
plug-in.
yeah, I have to plug in still, but I'll live.
So
Yeah.
your number there, 26002. Mine's 26999. So you're probably ahead of me.
Interesting. Yeah, that must be why it's a day ahead. Interesting. I don't know. And commission numbers, I think, count up for the whole. That's what that F26002 is. I think those count all models. So like a Cayenne, a Macan, and a Panamera or whatever are all going to be labeled with the same commissioning number stuff, and it just loops between I guess F or whatever letter is next, presumably. I don't think they've got a limit on that, but that's pretty cool. That's actually really close then. Do you know when yours is coming in? You're getting Cross Turismo, I heard.
Yeah, for Cross Turismo, it's supposed to be delivered the 31st of December, but we'll see with supply chain issues and everything else. So
yeah, who knows in this world? Things are getting dicier and
New
dicier.
Year's Eve, though, that would be a heck of a Christmas present.
I guess they won't be on the same ship, unfortunately. That would be way too easy.
Well,
So
mine would go in through Houston, and yours is going in through Georgia or Florida, it looks like, right?
Yeah, it comes in through Jacksonville. Although maybe it's the same boat and it makes it step, it does its second stop in Houston or something. But I don't know if it takes 2 weeks for them to unload and get to the next spot necessarily.
Interesting.
When we get to that stage, you'll have to compare notes and see what boat they're on. See who's got the faster boat.
So yeah, Logan, you said you got like a last minute delivery because like most of the Cross Turismos were like next year, I think is what you said.
Yeah, the dealer that I worked with, they had to trade with another dealer. They traded a Panamera actually to get a slot for me, which was super awesome, and they were actually able to get it in a day. The sales associate was fantastic for that, but normally they were out for this quarter, and the next build slots would be first quarter of 22 when their next allocation came out, if they got any. So I was very lucky to be able to get one.
That's awesome that they're able to swap something for it, because I've seen the work that goes into that, and it's not as easy. You would think with non-built products it'd be easy to exchange one fake thing for another fake thing, but it requires a bit of coordination between different stores. It's like swapping inventory that's already there almost without shipping.
So Logan, go a little bit into your spec that you have chosen thus far that has not locked in. Like, what colored exterior did you choose? And
yeah, I did black exterior and then the black chalk interior. I do car wraps, and black is the best color to wrap over.
Cool.
That's why I just did black.
Yeah,
save some money there, but got all the fancy dynamic controls. So dynamic chassis, torque vectoring, rear wheel steering, all that stuff. So
you're making Ben jealous.
That's gonna be nice. Those are the things I currently want to add to the rear wheel drive, but they all are. You have to get air suspension to get torque vectoring, which is the thing I really want. And so it just stacks into this like $4,500 thing to get a feature that's about $1,500. What are you going to wrap it? Do you know?
No, I don't know yet. I gotta play with it. I've been looking at the configurator. The Mamba Green looks sick on the configurator. Some of the blues look good too, but yeah, I'll just have to play with it.
You can always like pick a existing Porsche historical color and kind of match that closely. And then when people ask what it is, you can actually give them a Porsche color, which Porsche enthusiasts always seem to love.
Yep, it's true. I mean, Jordan knows what my current Teslas are wrapped, pretty bright and crazy. So we'll have to see what color fits well with the Cross Turismo.
Oh, found a picture. I was looking for this. These are
that's sweet.
Teslas.
Oh, that's cool.
So they're both black, right? And you wrap them.
Correct.
Wild. So
black's good, because then when you open up the doors and stuff, the door jambs are black, which is a lot less noticeable than say blue or red or something.
So what Model S is that? Is that a 100? P100?
It's a 75D 2018.
Oh, cool.
It looks like it's fast, but it's not. It's just all the body kit. I mean, it's still fast. It's still an EV, still a Tesla, but
yeah, of course. I've never driven a Roadster, but I've spent some time in Model S, actually a 75D and an 85 Plus, because I owned a P85 Plus at one point. But I get what you're saying about the 75. They're not like the fastest thing, but with it being an EV, it always feels a lot faster.
They're still like 4.4 or 4.5 seconds.
Oh, yeah, they're not
4.3. They're like kind of quick. This is what EVs have done to us. They've ruined our sensation of like what's a quick car. Like, like I feel like I have to make an excuse for a car that's below or above 4 seconds or something. It doesn't start with a 3. It's kind of slow or something. Whereas that's supercar territory even not long ago, I would think.
And not to diverge into Tesla too much here, but so the car was 5.2 0 to 60 on delivery, and then a few months later, software update 4.2.
Uncorking, yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So.
My father has a 2016 Model S 75G that got uncorked, and that made a big difference because it was 5.2 in that car, and it was like a whole second or something like that, 0.9 maybe.
That's impressive.
So this Taycan Cross Turismo on paper then will be slower because it's supposed to be 4.8.
Yeah.
But
it'll feel fast. I mean, we just got out of a Taycan. Just the rear-wheel drive one still feels quick, even with launch control, which every Taycan I believe has. Ben would be able to know for sure.
Yes,
but
standard. But it's interesting. I think the Taycan for me has really cemented there's like two types of acceleration. There's 0 to 60. It's an off-the-line shove, and Teslas did great, where you from a stop you get everything the car can give, and it kind of just die off, and you even feel that at like 45, 50 miles an hour where that dip in power happens. And Taycan kind of operates differently, especially a rear-wheel drive one, because it launches kind of so-so. It's all right. 0 to 30 is not the most impressive, but that like 35 to 70 or 80 is really, really fast feeling. And, to my butt dyno, almost felt like faster than my Model 3 Performance. I'm not sure if it is, but the sensation felt faster. And really in the car, that's kind of what matters, truthfully, how it feels.
It just feels sportier. It's been interesting driving like Taycan and Tesla back to back, because a lot of people compare them so much, but they feel like such a different car. Like I think the Taycan is genuinely a more engaging driver. Like Tesla after a while felt a bit more like, I don't know, appliance, like still fun, but like the wow factor kind of wears off a little bit. Versus the Taycan, like I got some pictures. I took it up Lookout Mountain Road above the clouds, and it was like just twisty road. I had so much fun.
Nice clip.
Oh yeah, I
thought that was a photo of you too.
Yeah, but it's I don't know if it even plays videos, or is it playing? I don't know, but
it tried.
Yeah, it might not.
It struggles, but
that looks great though.
Like what a driving road for the Taycan, and it felt more engaging than any. Like I think the Teslas are actually good performance, but it's just something about the Porsche like sitting position and cabin environment and feel like it does feel much better put together than probably any Tesla until maybe the current Plaid. I haven't really compared them back to back, but it feels very well sorted and well made.
Plaid is fast, but not really an engaging driving experience outside of acceleration. I kind of thought maybe it'll get better with updates to the torque vectoring, but didn't really feel like game changer.
Having like, and I didn't know what to expect, because this is base Taycan, like not fast, but it still, I mean, way faster than my Miata. So it still felt fast to me.
It's very
but
low
it actually fit more of the like the Miata is engaging because it's fun in the corners and it's fun, anything but a straight line. And the Taycan actually meets both pretty well. Like it has that straight line fun wow, not quite as much as like P100D and other top performers, but you also take it into the bends, and it's like the suspension's fantastic. It's got Sport and then Sport Plus. Those both make a difference. And Logan, I did just test right before this the gravel mode, which I was doing 60 miles an hour, and it still kept it in gravel mode, like high. I know that was one of your questions. So that was pretty fun. If you put it in full lift, it'll only do it up to 25 miles an hour. But gravel mode, which is barely shorter, you can do for, there's some major speed bumps at the bottom of this road, and they didn't really faze me much. Of course, I went back over them later in low, and it was rough.
Well, yeah,
the difference between firm and soft on Taycan suspension when you go into the settings and choose it is really, really.
I was
drastic.
floored. The gravel mode, it felt comparable to Cayenne on a big bump, and then low, it was 40 some millimeters of travel difference. Plus, I was on the Sport Plus suspension, so zero comfort. That was rough.
I think, and Logan probably, it'd be interesting to hear his perspective, but for me, the big thing is I think the Model 3 can be an engaging driving experience. Anytime I've had it kind of on the track or up in the mountains on really twisty roads in track mode and really get into the flow with it, I think it's quite fun and nimble, and it moves around a lot. With track mode, you can really get it to initiate oversteer just off regen, and I think it's a really fun experience there. But the problem is I get to do that, 2 to 4 times a year, whereas I have to drive it every day for work and running errands, all that sort of stuff. And in those scenarios, I'm unhappy in the car, unfortunately. I used to like it more, but the noise, NVH rattles, just fit and finish is kind of bothering me. There's a slightly rough road, not even bumpy, but just rough surface that makes everything in the car buzz, and every morning it drives me up the wall. And I used to love software updates, but I feel like lately they've made my car more buggy and annoying to use. So for me, it was just sort of how do I get an engaging driving experience all of the time, which the Taycan really seems to handle well. I'm kind of curious, Logan, what your urge to not necessarily ditch Tesla, but to welcome the Taycan into your driveway was.
Yeah, it was kind of instigated by my neighbors who have a Cayman and a Macan GTS. Both of them are GTS, and are ordering a 718 Spider. And I've done a bunch of PCA race events with them, and got to ride along on High Plains Raceway a few weekends ago with one of them. And just like you said, the Porsche driving dynamics are incredible. They were the ones who recommended I get all of the chassis, torque vectoring, all the things I mentioned before, just so it's highly engaging all the time for exactly the reason you said, Ben. You're going to drive it more so, just around the city, and you can have a lot more fun if you have those features.
I think so. Yeah. And so what is your build? Did you have dynamic chassis control as well, or just the rear steer and
PDCC, rear steering, and the torque vectoring plus?
Oh wow, that's gonna be fun. That's a good combo. We had a turbo we were driving recently, Taycan Turbo, and when you're low and firm in that car and in Sport Plus, the way the whole car moves, it's almost like a snake. When you're making quick, just zigzags for the sake of it, almost, because it's really, the rear comes at a different angle. I really like it. I think it's
the rear wheel steering
experience.
Was very impressive.
I was gonna say, adding on to the, why did I want to go for Taycan? Part of it was that I like the S. It's nice. It's big. It's comfortable to drive. Things like you guys have said before. The Roadster is fantastic for the dynamics, but it has zero comfort. And the Taycan is the best mix of both of those. It's both of those had a baby. But it's German, and I love the German build quality and finishes and all the things you guys have said too. So.
And a great charge curve.
Yeah, I've been waiting for a German car that has decent specs and can compete with Tesla. I've always been a German car fan myself.
Man, that's good. I'm very jealous you're getting the Cross Turismo, the wagon in layman's terms, because that's the one I most want. It's just not eligible for what I'm trying to do, so I have to go for the regular style. I keep saying, the next EV I want is an electric wagon. And
I'm very disappointed that they don't bring more wagons to the U.S. I'm a car guy myself. I'm a low seating position guy, not an SUV guy, but having that utility is just fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And you got the 18-way seats, right? That was a big deal because you experienced some.
Yeah, my neighbors that I mentioned before, in their Macan, they have the 14 ways, and then the Cayman, they have the 18 ways. So they're like, come to our garage and just sit in one and then sit in the other one. So did that, and it was like 18 ways are just fantastic. With
They're way tighter
change those bolsters. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going very base on a lot of things, like 8-way seats, no memory. This car, I'm trying to justify it in my head as if I can make the pricing work out to the same as my Model 3, which I can currently sell for quite a bit in the current market. So I'm trying to like balance that, which maybe not the right way to go into it, but for a 2-3 year commitment on a lease, that's I think going to do me fine until there's something else. Maybe Macan GTS electric or something when that happens. Who knows? Well, I don't really want an SUV. I'm hoping there just becomes another Cross Turismo. I can look at them.
Yeah. I think the only thing that could get me out of the Miata would be electric Boxster, but that's probably a different price point for sure. I actually, after talking to Logan last night, I decided to build my own. So I guess I can share that on.
I've built many.
What was crazy was the configurator was really struggling. Like, I don't know if you guys have had any issues.
Oh yes,
but it was
sometimes very good. But if you leave it idle for a long period of time, it loses whatever connection it is to those backend servers, and you kind of have to start over.
Yeah, it seems like they're re-rendering everything piece by piece on server side every time I made a change. And at one point, I broke it. Like literally.
Sometimes you'll click something, you have to wait a second for it to actually visualize it. I think there's like a compositor or something on a server that takes all these checkboxes, layers them up, and then sends you a single layer JPEG back.
Yep. Yeah. So at some point I selected some option that apparently broke the JPEG entirely, and it put that little like can't display image thing on there.
Oh, interesting.
So that was rough. But no, that Mamba Green really grabbed.
So I know this is your hypothetical car, but I still need to critique it slightly. You should do the black trim around the windows instead of the chrome.
I had that spec'd on the 4, and then I upgraded to the 4S, and it must have cleared it.
Probably.
So yeah, $185,000.
That's it.
The price for the equipment alone is more than the Lotus Emira I would want to buy instead. So,
it's getting pretty close to the price of my Taycan.
Yeah, my options are Ben's Taycan.
I think mine's like 89.
I'm dying to find someone with the Burmeister sound system because I want to hear it. $7,000.
It's very
I want
good.
to hear it.
It's very good. I think in the Porsche world, I have some opinions when it comes to sound systems. The standard sound system in every Porsche is awful. It's just, they're not good. Mm-hmm. They're like 120 watts, so they have no volume, they have no definition, not very much quality. But let's say you're buying a convertible and you can drive it with the top down, fine. Podcasts, it's fine. Bose is not amazing either, which is probably the most common you'll see. It's like $1,200 on most cars.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like I'm buying Bose so that I'm not getting the bad sound system rather than buying Bose for the sake of having the better one. It's like I'm paying $1,200 to avoid that one, not to get this one.
But I will say, after driving like dozens of press cars, the Bose in the Porsche is actually one of the better Bose systems, I think, if not the best, because a lot of different brands use Bose. Theirs, for some reason, is tuned possibly the best. I will say I liked it better with surround, like all the Bose extra stuff turned off, like just all the Bose, gadgets.
Enhancements.
Yeah, they're not real.
Air quotes
in my head.
The Burmester is good. It's for me, maybe up. I'd have a hard time deciding between that and Volvo's Bowers and Wilkins because I really like the sound profile in the B&W system, and I don't know if it's better. I just think I like how it sounds more.
It's half the price.
I mean that factored in Bowers and Wilkins and the Volvos.
Hey Jordan, can you pull back up that configurator screen real quick?
Yep.
All right, Logan, I have a question. Which wheels did you pick?
I picked the Cross Turismo 21s.
Oh yeah.
Oh yes. I was hoping you would say those. Those are my personal favorite as well.
That's the best wheel.
Come on.
Once it might not render, but I know what they look like.
It reminds me of some kind of a cool fancy pocket knife or something. I don't know. It looks sick.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the cooler wheel designs Porsche's done in a long time.
Where's
That's very cool.
Window trim? There we go.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Fix the wheels too.
Is this a problem that I know positionally where things are in the configurator? Like someone's like, "Oh, I want to look at this," and I'm like, "Oh, I know exactly where to find that."
Yeah.
So how many
That's a
hours,
good
Ben,
thing.
do you think you spent going through the configurator? even after you submitted the deal, right? Because I've actually changed my config twice now since I actually signed the deal.
I had them. I was able to basically. I had a weekend to do everything before putting it in, so I haven't changed it yet. I'm kind of going back and forth on the electric sport sound personally.
He has the second build ready to go, though. Don't let him fool you.
I do. Generally, at any given time, I know my unlimited budget spec of every single Porsche model, and then I also know my realistic version of every Porsche model. So I've spent way more time than I probably should, and more than that's healthy in Porsche configurators, I would say.
Wow, it's finally rendered, and this is exactly what I would order. I had the wrong wheels
perfect.
on there. I didn't realize
That's
that.
about what I would do. I think I would do that or Neptune Blue. I really like the Neptune.
Gorgeous.
Mamba looks really good in person, though.
It does.
Ben
It's
and I
excellent.
just saw a Taycan Turbo S with like every single option box selected on it. In Mamba green that looked amazing in the sun.
Yeah.
It was the first thing we saw driving by. That's why we stopped in to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
So, Logan, this is the color I want my Miata wrapped. I have decided. So on yours, I know you were debating power charge port and also the thermal
I have
noise
strong
glass.
opinions about power charge port, but I want to hear your thoughts before I ruin everything for everyone.
So yeah, the power charge port. I was going to ask Kyle this, hoping he was going to be on to know kind of what he would spec on there since he's driven so many of these things. I think it looks cool just to have it kind of fold in, and I think when you're at a public charger, not having the flap open, if you will, for vandalism or what have you, that was kind of my reasoning. The one thing I would be worried about being in Colorado is freezing. Does it still operate when it's super cold? I know people have posted about Model 3, Model Y charge port door getting frozen when we get a big ice rainstorm type of thing. So yeah, curious your thoughts, Ben.
So I have probably I work for Porsche, so I interact with these cars all the time, and so I feel like if you're a slightly impatient person, which I am, I'm probably more than slightly impatient. The power charge port door is obnoxious because it just, you swipe and sometimes you got to swipe again to get it to move, and then you kind of have to. I feel like I have to wait. Whereas with the manual one, you can just click it and open and go, and there's no weirdness. And I have once encountered where like a car wouldn't let me open either for some reason, and I kind of had to just like let it sit for 4 minutes before it would do it, and that was probably a one-off. It was a really early built Taycan, so it was on like 2020 original software and had never been updated. But I think I never thought about it, but having the flap open is a little more exposed, so that is a concern. But the speed at which like you can use the manual one's nice. For me, the biggest deal is the vent behind the front wheel, though. That's on the door, on that fender that goes between the door fender and like wheel well. When you get the power charge port door, that becomes a fake vent blocked off. Whereas if you have the manual charge port door, it's an actual air vent that runs between the two. Which does improve cooling and range, well, cooling for the brakes and range for the car. So that's my reasoning to not get it at this point.
But
super interesting. I've never actually heard that detail before.
Yeah, it's something that is sort of an unknown thing. But if you look at one, like if you're getting into the driver's door in a car that's got the power charge port and you look down the fender into that gap where you would expect the air vent to be, you'll just see a black plastic piece on each side that blocks it off because the mechanism takes up that space.
Wow.
So Ben, have you ever heard of anyone having an issue with the power door like freezing over though? Or just software glitches?
No, we're
like
in the
you've
south
seen?
here, North Carolina, so I haven't really heard anyone having cold weather issues because it doesn't snow, really. If it snows one day. So I don't think it'd be, like the way the mechanism seems to work, I don't think it'd get frozen, but I think if it was open in snow, it might have trouble closing. I don't think it'll have trouble opening, though, if that makes sense. because it doesn't like, it's like the fuel, no, I guess charge flap, and then it has a rubber gasket surrounding it that's fairly loose that just pushes up against the back side of the fender. So when it comes in, it just pulls in and goes up. So I don't think it would have any trouble doing that. But like if it was snowing and the thing was plugged in and you got like ice filled up in there, that would probably be where you have a challenge more than anything.
And what
Although
about
there is convenience with the power flap, like we're used to with the Teslas.
and what about the thermal noise glass? Like how much of an impact does that make?
Thermally, it's about the same as putting like almost as good a ceramic tint on. So it makes a good difference there. The noise helps a bit. I actually think it's great for cold weather. So actually in Colorado, maybe a good idea because you don't feel that cold air kind of falling off that side window onto your arm while driving. And it doesn't fog up as easily because of that insulation. I'd probably get it if it fits into your build budget, comfortably.
Well, you may be convincing me to switch the power charge port door cover out for something else.
Switch it for the glass.
Nice.
Are there any?
Yeah.
I was gonna say, are there any other interesting hidden build changes like that you just mentioned?
That's probably the biggest one that like most people didn't seem to know at Porsche when they were like shown that, like, oh wow, no idea. So that's a big one.
I know that like the compartment under the trunk in the back is smaller or larger depending upon based on system versus Bose or Burmester because of the subwoofer.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's probably the biggest thing. Besides that, there's not a whole lot, especially on cross Turismo because it's. What seating are you doing in the rear? Are you doing the 2+1 or the base 2 seat?
Just the base.
The rear. Okay. The only thing I can think of there is when you do 2+1, that center seat, half a seat, whatever you want to call it, I think can fold independently, so you can get like a ski pass through if that's something you need, as opposed to having to fold both seats down. But that's really it.
So it's only 60/40 if you don't get the 2+1.
Yes, correct. Or it might be 50/50. I can't remember. I have to actually look to remember on that one. And 4-zone climate's interesting because you get that screen in the rear, but then you also get the digital aiming air vents in the rear versus regular manual air vents, which I prefer the manual air vents in the rear at least because as a driver you can just kind of reach back and make sure they're on if you have pets or something back there.
I was slightly disappointed though that they didn't make the manual vents still at least look like the auto ones, because the auto ones even look like you should be able to manually move them.
Yeah,
so they could at least mimic the design.
I tried.
I think everyone does. Yeah. Even the Panamera has that, like a more traditional looking air vent, but without the tab. You kind of want to poke at it still because it just looks that way. I have to think. Is heated windshield an option still in this market? That's probably useful in Colorado if you want.
I did not see one.
Okay, then maybe it might just be
I've
Cayenne.
seen that either.
But electric sport sound is something if you want, you need to do up front because it's $2,150 to do it after the fact. Worth knowing.
I was wondering your opinion on that too, because I feel like that's probably something that more people who are more typical Porsche owners or coming from an ICE car type of thing would maybe option for more than folks like us who are coming from an EV land where we're used to the silence.
Yeah, I feel like because I'm used to the silence, I want it just to have the toy. It's funny, it's silly, it's kind of just fun soundtrack, and that is the thing that may end up getting added to my build in the next 3 days here. I'm not quite sure yet which way I want to go, but that's a tough one for me because a lot of people say, oh, an EV that makes fake noise, that's cheesy, whatever. And it is, and I agree with all those points, but I do like it. So, I disagree with myself on it, basically. So I think it's, for $500, I wouldn't have it over other things, but I'm still tempted to maybe throw it in there. Are you doing sport? I take it you're doing sport chrono too, right?
No, I did not do that. Because when I test drove it, I was like, what's the use for this dial? Because I can just change the stuff on the dashboard pretty easily. The only reason why I was going to get it was to get the GT steering wheel. Mm-hmm. But then I analyzed the dial, right? Yeah. But then I was thinking about where do I normally hold the steering wheel? I don't even hold it where the extra bolsters are. anyway, I normally hold it kind of at the top when I drive. That's just my normal seating position. So I took that one out and went with the rear wheel steering instead.
That's not a bad idea. It's a tangible feature. I think the biggest thing without Sport Chrono that I wish I would get Sport Chrono for, I mean, you get better battery cooling profiles for hard driving, which I think really is only going to matter on the Nürburgring more so. But going to range mode, because you have Sport down on that center lower display, and that toggles between Sport and normal. But to go to range mode, you have to go to the main screen, hit the car button, hit drive, and then hit mode, and then hit range, which is a little bit of a thing if you're going between range and, say, Sport often, which I feel like I will be doing. But it's not a $1,500 problem that needs to be solved in my mind.
Right.
Yeah.
So Logan, the one that you drove did not have Porsche Sport sound?
No, it did. I actually drove a rear wheel drive in the spring, and then I drove a 4S later last week, and that's what kind of really cemented it for me. Both of these sedans, of course. And as soon as I show up to the dealer and they're kind of walking me through the car and configuring it, they're like, "Oh, let's turn this thing on." And I'm like, No. Don't turn it on. I'm like, I drive a Tesla. I'm used to the quiet.
I think the Sport sound's a novelty that will wear off, which is why I'm leaning away from adding it mostly, because I've just had EVs without it. And I think 99% of the time it will be off. So that'd be my logic on it.
You can still hear the motors spin up, right? And that
you still hear stuff.
Is cool.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's not a purely silent EV because there's a little gearbox in the back. There's kind of like mechanical noises which are sort of pleasant to hear still.
I like the sound a lot. Yeah.
I don't know if it's maybe worth in Colorado. You can do all season tires, I think, for $0 as an upgrade on your 21s under the wheel accessories. Okay, yeah, I would say that's probably worth it if you don't want to have to switch tires as often. But then I'm going summers here because we have no need.
My awesome Porsche friends are like, you shouldn't do that. You should have dedicated summers and winters because you'll just get better driving experience on both sides of it.
Yeah,
they are right. But I'm also lazy, so I would probably go all seasons out there to be lazy. Although in a rear-wheel drive car, I might have to have dedicated winters. I don't know.
I have gotten it down to like 5 to 10 minutes to switch because I have summers and winters on different wheels entirely. So I'm getting it faster and faster. I really need a quick jack. That would be so fast.
Well, the Taycan weighs, I think, 5,400 pounds or something like that. Maybe not 54, but it's over 5,000 pounds.
More than double my Miata.
Yeah, need some good jacks and whatnot for that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, that's Taycan. We got to get to our other.
Did you do? Last thought. Do you have adaptive cruise in your build?
Yes. Yeah, and the lane keeping drive. Cool. That was actually one of the things I actually good you brought this up. That was one of the things that I was hoping that it would fit inside of my budget to be able to put in, because that's one of the things I really like about my Model S on the highway is it's just much more relaxing and de-stressing to drive because it just cruises along and just keep your hand on the steering wheel type thing. So I think those systems will make me happy for that type of situation when I don't want to be fully engaged with driving.
Mm-hmm. So that drive, like how good is that over just having adaptive cruise control? Because I saw the 2 levels of options and I was going to ask how those are.
It's pretty good. It's not autopilot per se, because autopilot is very unique where Tesla autopilot, if you're on and you want to like turn the steering wheel, it goes, okay, I'm done. I give up, your turn. And it won't there's no collaboration. Whereas in like InnoDrive and a lot of other manufacturers' systems, when it's steering, you can still like grab a steering wheel and like move it around in the lane and it'll just kind of come back to the middle again. So like it's not going to have quite as much steering authority. So it won't be taking as sharp of a turn, but it does do things where it speeds up and slows down for turns even off the highway. So like if, assuming there's no red lights in front of you or something, it'll like slow down to let you make your turn off the intersection left across traffic or something, and it's actually quite good for that sort of stuff. It's got some clever stuff put into it, I think.
Interesting. Yeah, my press car has just adaptive cruise control, but nothing else. And
if you have adaptive cruise, you can software as a service, monthly subscribe or one-time purchase the InnoDrive on top of it, I believe.
Oh. Nice.
I have one more question, Jordan, before you switch topics.
Yeah.
For Ben. So coming from Tesla world, right, like you said before, we're used to getting software updates, maybe even sometimes daily. And, Porsche is obviously new to this, and they did a big update to get the 2020s up with some of the current models. earlier this year, I should say. What do you feel like is going to be a good cadence for that? And are they going to be able to do the same types of new feature releases as Tesla's been able to do?
Probably not. I'll just be realistic. I don't think we'll see. I think we'll see bug improvements and fixes. There were some things they added, like I think Apple Music was added at one point, or Amazon Music was a software update, and then there was something to do with I'm pretty sure ambient lighting coordination to the album art cover or something weird that was like part of an update that I thought was kind of interesting, and lyrics on Apple Music. So they've done some like features. They're not like, I think what Tesla's doing with their infotainment is really cool, because as much as I think the games in my car are pointless and I'd rather them focus on other things, ideally, it is cool to get an update and be like, oh, I have this whole new feature, like the hold mode, which changes the way that car drove for me on the Model 3, at least, in a very positive way. I don't think we'll see very drastic things, but I think we'll see things to keep it up to date, and hopefully some, a feature over a year or two, but I'm not expecting anything radical necessarily. I'd say make sure you like it as it is, and I wouldn't expect anything, but if you get anything, it's nice.
I mean, I know I've said this, others have said this, and you probably experienced it too. But getting a Tesla, you're like the car is better probably now than when you bought it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Aside from the bugs, because I agree there are some bugs, but that's a really unique value offering, I should say.
Oh yeah, it's easy to not get bored of a car.
Yeah, I hope other manufacturers kind of catch on to that trend, and hopefully they do with the Taycan.
I'd like to see it. I'm not, because Porsche buyers and as a brand, they have a little bit less of a focus on technology in that area as like gimmicks. Whether or not they're gimmicks, they still add value in a Tesla. I would say, like, maybe not fart mode, that adds zero value, but other things might be gimmicky, but adds some, like the theater mode. I will say, watching Netflix in the car, I thought, why am I going to sit in my car and watch Netflix? But I might have lunch in the car or something and just pop up a YouTube video, which is quite nice. And so giving up that will be a little bit of a shame. But I think with Porsche, you almost have to look at the car as, well, this is a car in the traditional sense, but it's going to be a very good electric car in that traditional sense.
Yep.
Nice.
I'm hoping I won't feel left out, though, when all the news of updates comes for the Model 3. That's gonna, when there's like an update, I'm like, man, I really wish I had one to play with. But I can always find someone with it to just see it or watch videos or something.
That's true. Well, yeah, thanks for joining us, Logan. You're welcome to stay on or head out, whatever you prefer. But
yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice meeting you.
Got some great Taycan in the future.
Congrats on the Taycan.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You too.
Looking forward to seeing how it wraps.
You have to come back when you get it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We'll do some wraps and
we'll have a New Year's Day Taycan extravaganza.
There you go. All right. Hey, cheers, guys.
All right. Thanks, Logan.
Take care.
So, in EV news, we've talked, or I guess complained about the Genesis GV60 before. But tonight was last night was their official unveiling, which tells us the actual specs. Still don't like the car. The wheels surprisingly don't bother me. I don't know why, but Genesis current wheels, especially in person, look amazing. And I think their color is great too. But the styling is just a little funky. And we've already talked about that. But what we know now is, well, what we already kind of knew was the same eGMP platform of the Hyundai Ioniq 5 and Kia EV6, which hopefully Kyle will tell us all about how that drove pretty soon. You can look at our videos on Out of Spec reviews on YouTube, because he's driven pretty much every car ever at this point.
Yeah, he has a pretty in-depth video on the EV6. It's pretty good, very informative, very cool car. I'm super excited for it to hit the market over here. I think it would do very well. And if this Genesis is anything like that car to drive, which who knows, it could be a little less sporty than the Kia. Maybe it's a little more grown up. And if anything, the interior looks really nice on the Genesis for sure. It looks like a nice place to sit. But
oh yeah,
the specs are, they're pretty impressive to be honest.
Yeah, so 77.4 kilowatt hour battery, charged from 10 to 80% in 18 minutes at 350 kilowatts.
Very
we'll, of
impressive.
course, be testing more on the charging curve and everything, but even slow charging is now 11 kilowatts. And then there are 3 versions. So rear wheel drive, all wheel drive, and then all wheel drive with performance. So rear wheel drive is 225 horsepower, 258 pound-feet of torque. Not the best specs, but range is 280 miles, which is really solid for the market. And then all wheel drive, you get more power and more torque, but range drops a bit. And these aren't EPA range numbers as far as we can tell. So we can't really say how accurate it is, but you can expect base model, longest range, performance model, least range. So speaking of the performance, it is the pair of full-fledged motors for 429 horsepower with the same 446 horsepower as the mid tier. And so less than 230 miles of range. But you also get a boost mode, which in my head is just like nitrous from Fast and Furious. You get 10 seconds.
I hope it makes a noise.
Yeah, you get that all of the power for 10 seconds at a time, which will get you to 0 to 62 in 4 seconds flat. Which this is slower than the Kia EV6 GT.
Mm-hmm.
That's something to note. People expected the Genesis to be the best of everything, but it kind of depends. It's almost like Kia has their kind of super performance GT version versus Genesis is more focusing on the luxury aspect while still being fast. I mean, this is faster than the Taycan we just talked about, at least the base Taycan. So
I just see this is very important. I see the word drift mode.
Yes.
I'm a fan of this.
Yep, so we were getting
everything I've ever said about the styling. We're jumping ahead because that word jumped out.
Yeah. So there is a drift mode for, quote, drivers who are looking for a more dynamic experience.
Agreed.
That's straight from the Genesis press release.
Yeah. So this is pretty exciting. There's going to be e-motor engine noises, which I'm really curious to experience because Genesis is the only press car that I have not turned off the fake noise for.
Oh, that's high praise, actually.
It's actually that good. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
I mean, who knows? It might be like Porsche Sports Sound, except included in the car, not a $500 option.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think I still want to see it in person because there are like renderings and stuff that I've seen that I hated. But then I see like the car in person. It's like, oh, perfect. I do want to mention Ben fixed the styling.
I just stretched it so it was not as tall looking and made it flatter.
Oh my
God. It really does look way better.
It does. That's what it is. It looks like a jelly bean from the side.
It looks like an EV6 now. Basically what it looks like.
Well, I felt like the styling isn't awful. It's just like they wanted to make it look like, a bigger, more imposing thing, except it's kind of small and goofy looking.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, everyone's on about, the BMW iX4 thing about the styling, but apparently the interior of that car is amazing. Probably the best interior BMW's done in decades. And I think this Genesis is probably, that full electric BMW that's coming out.
As bad as it is outside, it's excellent inside, I have to admit.
Yeah, and I think this Genesis looks better than that car on the outside, even though I'm still not a fan of it. But I think the interior will be its real big bright spot because that's what it is on the current Genesis lineup. I mean, I was just in a 2022 G80 the other day, a sport prestige model. So basically the loaded one.
Ooh.
And it was amazing. It was way nicer than any German rival, for sure.
It's such a nice place to be. That huge screen just has such a presence. Apple CarPlay is
the 3D gauges look
huge.
Great.
Oh, I didn't have the 3D gauges on mine.
This one did. I didn't spend I was in and out of it, over the course of 5 or 10 minutes, but I sat in it just kind of looking around and feeling things while I was in there. I'm like, everything's put together well. Genesis on a roll, so
I want to experience the 3D gauges because if I can summarize Doug DeMuro's year of 2021, it was his obsession with the 3D gauges of Genesis and then his plaid video. But I guess Genesis, they're putting, for some reason, they highlighted like a real metal badge on the car, and they're really proud of their little lightning bolt on the C pillar, which we commented looks like a Tesla logo flipped kind of sideways. But yeah, they think it's a lightning bolt because that's creative, I guess. But to me, it just looks weird, like, I don't know, chrome accent that I would want to delete.
It looks like someone tripped while they were drawing it and then put it to production. Oh, it's a lightning bolt.
It identifiable. I'll give them that.
Yeah.
I wonder, I'm really curious about the interior because we had the GV80 a while ago and I spent some time in that. And the first 24 hours, maybe 48 hours of that car, I was like, oh, I love this thing. It's amazing. So much features. It's so nice. And then after, like, it was almost like I woke up the next day and then I hated it again. Not hated it, that's strong. But I realized like the honeymoon phase on that car is so strong because you get so much value. And then when you start scratching below the surface, yeah, it's not dynamically quite as good and stuff, but that was sort of their first like big thing. And so I think that I'm sure they're learning as they go. They're going to have nicer materials, better insulation, better suspension tuning. Sounds like there's going to be a lot of interesting drivetrain tuning happening here. I'm really excited to see where they go because I wouldn't say it's a $95,000 car for $45,000 like some people, but maybe we're getting for $45,000, $67,000 for the car, which is great. By comparison.
Yeah. So that's basically what we know. All the update. Oh, there is a face recognition camera in the B pillar, so you can unlock your car with Face ID, essentially. So I don't know. It's intriguing. Genesis says this is athletic elegance, and I do beg to differ. But
I feel like that's what I look like right now, and I'm just on the sofa eating popcorn.
Yeah,
like I look like that car.
There's beauty in the eye of the beholder, and there's also beauty in the eye of the designer, and we're seeing that dichotomy now. Also, fresh news right off the press is Jeep Grand Cherokee with the 4xE that we've seen on the Jeep. I had the Jeep Wrangler 4xE for a while.
Yes,
it was awesome, and this makes total sense. I think the Wrangler in some ways was like the one that made the least sense to me, other than like realizing how amazing it was to be off-road with all electric. But it's really cool that they're bringing 4xE to the rest of the lineup. I would assume they're starting small with just a couple of models, but now we have the Grand Cherokee added to the mix. Same range, actually a little bit better range stated. The 4xE claims 21. The 4xE Wrangler claims 21 miles. The 4xE Grand Cherokee claims 25. On the Wrangler, I got at least 25 every time, sometimes more. So
it looks good in that trim level.
It looks like it only comes in the Trailhawk, which is very cool.
Yeah. So it'll be on Limited, Trailhawk, Overland, Summit, and Summit Reserve. So even more trims than the Wrangler. So same exact.
Almost all of them, I take it, or the majority of them.
Yeah, same exact powertrain to a T of the Wrangler. As far as 2-liter turbocharged engine combined with the electric motors, making 375 horsepower, 470 pound-feet of torque. 17 kilowatt-hour battery with roughly 15 kilowatt-hours usable. So that's cool. It's basically slightly more efficient than the Wrangler. But other than that,
I bet you would get 30 plus miles of range out of this thing.
Yeah,
especially in the right trim.
Yeah, I'll be testing it for sure once we get it. This is it's cool. It's not, there's not a lot to talk about other than I think it's going to be nicer interior wise than the Wrangler. That was one of my picky parts, but I realized
it looks nicer. Looks nice.
I realized the Wrangler is not made for luxury, so I had to have that caveat. Although it was really comfortable, just wasn't like smooth or anything. This will probably be a really great place to be, and it's cool that they have plug-in hybrid with the Jeeps. So
it's very cool that they expanded it away from just the Wrangler. So it'll probably sell very well.
They also have the passenger display. So it's basically a Taycan.
Yeah, it's basically a
Taycan. So that's kind of a, I don't know, quick, cool thing.
I think this is probably the best the Jeep Grand Cherokee's ever been.
I
obviously.
agree.
I mean, it looks like a big upgrade. I haven't seen whatever this good sort of off-roady, I guess it's a Trailhawk or something. That looks great. I've seen a lot of the base ones, and they look like they're a base one of whatever they are still. But I mean, the interiors of the higher trim cars look really nice. It's definitely a car that I sort of wondered, like, why would someone buy a 2020 Grand Cherokee compared to like anything else? Like, they feel like really just not competitive vehicles, and now it's all of a sudden incredibly competitive in its segment, and it looks the part, and people seem to be eating them up right now.
Yeah, so capable off-road, not quite to the extent of the Wrangler, and definitely not to the extent of the Rivian.
For
Nice
sure.
segue.
Yeah, so wanted to end with some quick notes from our friend Tom Malogny at Inside EVs, and also State of Charge YouTube channel. He had some time at the press event out here in Colorado with the Rivian R1T, and we won't play the video to like infringe on copyright or anything, but really cool, lots of like crazy difficult trails, and they just kept getting more and more difficult. Apparently they got to the point where Rivian had actual professional spotters to like make sure they were getting through okay. But it's impressive. Definitely check out this video on Inside EV's YouTube channel, because I mean, it just gets me more excited for the Rivian. And Tom gives a nice, good, like close-up view. It's a very detailed video. Tom is great at that. He like really dives into all the details. So he looks at the bed, the whole cooking kitchen thing, the like 3-person tent. He goes kind of all in, and also does, the off-road adventure basically. So really pretty sweet. It makes me just so excited. And it's like everyone goes into these reviews expecting, the brand to like really talk it up, and then they try to like tear it apart. But it's amazing how little bad press Rivian is getting. I mean, people speculated because they first gave it to Motor Trend, and that's it. So it's like, oh, they're trying to control the narrative a bit. But now that they're getting all these other journalists in it and still having a great like outlook, and then you also have, they brought like every color.
Compass yellow.
Oh, that's the spec. Yeah. They have great colors. The OEM wheels are solid. I'm struggling to find a thing to complain about.
I know.
It makes me mad because I like to criticize things. But
the only reason I'm okay doing a Taycan right now is that I know there's a weight on the Rivians, and because I mean, what a great car that looks to be. In the range, it seems like a great all-around proposition.
Eventually, you'll get tired of the Taycan, and then finally, these will be in the hands of customers.
Well, I am leasing it, so in 2 or 3 years or whatever I decide to do when it comes in, maybe Taycan, or maybe we'll do a Rivian. My biggest thing was we've got that Lexus GX right now. We have been doing light off-road and overlanding in. And I love that experience, but I wonder if I would feel guilty doing some of the things I want to do in something as nice as the Rivian. You're aware that is something much more expensive. Like if I roll over the GX, the worst thing that happens is $14,000 goes down the drain.
Yeah,
the Rivian's a lot more than that.
Yeah, I don't know what I'd do because it's so capable. We've seen this so many times. The Long Way Up TV show for sure proved that. And like we talked about this before, but 3.3 inches more ground clearance than a Rubicon Jeep Wrangler or Gladiator. Ridiculous. The
big takeaway that I get, that we've all gotten just from watching what few videos I have and read a couple of the articles is pretty much everyone, as you said, Jordan, is in love with this thing. Like it's a truck that people have waited for. It's a truck that Rivian themselves didn't really talk much about for the most part leading up to it. I mean, you hear bits and pieces about it for the last 5 or 6 years, and they put a lot of time, and you can tell that they took their time to make sure that they're getting it right. And it sounds like they have hit it out of the park. And I'm sure where you live in Colorado, you're probably going to see a lot more of these than Ben and I are in Raleigh at first, at least until the SUV comes out. And then we'll see.
Probably talk to like 5 people a week who are like, "Yeah, we are on the list for Rivian." It's going to be popular here. The SUV at least will be in the truck. I mean, this is the South. People buy
what I want to see. I'm excited to see him out there. I am the first really well. technically it's the first true electric truck. I mean, there was like that Ford Ranger thing from like 98 or something that was a plug-in electric truck that some people say is the real first.
It'd be so funny if they had like a area like geofence software update to where in certain regions you could do that thing where you raise the front of the truck and lower the back with the air suspension.
You need that in North Carolina.
Yeah, I think it's been outlawed though now, so
it will be by
next year or something,
January 1st, I think.
Yeah.
Great.
I mean, credit I think to Rivian on this, because 2 years ago or three, however long it was, feels like a while now, they said, hey, we're going to make an electric pickup truck. Here's kind of what it looks like. And it's going to do these things really well. And I was like, okay. And then they didn't really do anything. They didn't say anything. They just kind of worked towards their goal. And then like, okay, here we are. We did it, which is very, it's almost kept them out of the spotlight a little bit because, these things are so tracked with Tesla and other brands. And it's sort of like, okay, we're back and here's our homework. It's exactly what we said we were going to turn in, except we did a little better.
And something Rivian is great at is actual progress reports. So with Tesla, it's kind of exciting to not really know what's going to happen until Elon literally walks out on stage. But with Rivian,
and then it still doesn't happen.
Rivian has a very active YouTube channel, like all throughout the process of development. They're super transparent. Yeah, could be things they hide. Who knows? They probably don't want to show like, oh, here's the 50 times this failed before we got it right. But they're doing a lot of like engaging, really well-made YouTube videos of just processes, procedures, and interviews, and I've really enjoyed their content as it's come out, and it has dropped little things of like, oh, they're doing a cool little kitchen thing to slide out of the gear tunnel, and most of the focus has been on the R1T, but the R1S is going to be really intriguing. I've had people ask me when the first like big electric SUV is coming out, and I'm like, well,
it's probably the R1S.
It's coming, yeah. So,
and it's for those who are off-road inclined, going to have a shorter wheelbase.
Yep.
So a little more capable, maybe.
Breakover angle for days,
but no kitchen. So trade-off. I mean, the kitchen's so cool.
Yeah, I'd choose the kitchen, but who knew? I was never a truck person. Although I guess Rivian technically calls it an adventure vehicle.
I think they've made a lot. I think they've made a lot of people truck people. I don't like trucks, but I look at the R1T and I'm like, wow, I really want one of those so bad. The styling even works, I think, really well.
Yeah. Well, that was a solid show. Thanks for joining us in all of our Taycan talk. Hopefully, if you had any questions, you don't anymore. Be sure to check out our content at Out of Spec on Twitter, and of course, Out of Spec reviews, Out of Spec motoring channels on YouTube. We're kind of all over the place. I myself am on Twitter, Jordan_Schiefer, and then we've got Mike M_Breeling. Ben is Benji_OOS, and thanks again for Logan joining us. He's on Instagram at loganrodrian.design if you want to see some sweet wraps.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, so we'll keep you posted with his Taycan, and especially when he wraps it. It'd be really fun to see how that turns out. So yeah, thanks for joining us. See you next time.